Getting to know Brittany, the real story. Did you know that I hated gymnastics? Not many people would know that. It wasn't something that I chose. It wasn't something that I was like, this is what I want to do. It was something that my mother always loved, and it was her dream, it was her aspiration. So she said, as soon as I have a little girl, she's going into gymnastics. And as soon as she had my sister started gymnastics, probably 3. As soon as she had me, I was right in that gym by 19 months. As soon as I can walk, I was in a gym. And my mother really lived through me because I had this just very natural ability, this natural talent that God, the spirits, blessed me with. I was just a vessel of natural, raw talent. And she would say from I was 3 years old, I'd be in a gym just boom, 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 doing cartwheels across the floor like a 3-year-old. That just seems like unheard of. So excitement sparked from her from the get-go that, wow, like this girl has something. My life story, my gymnastics story, I'm going to be doing it piece by piece because it's going to be very long. I'm going to start with what I'll call part 1, the beginning, with how this journey really started and the first coach that really saw talent in me, and how much I disliked the sport that nobody knows. So I started at 19 months old. I started off at one gym. We moved around to a few different gyms. Every gym did something amazing for me. But Markham Gymnastics was the gym where my talent really started to show through. And I was around 7 or 8 years old, and I had this phenomenal coach. Her name was Su Lin. She was straight from China. She was tough. She was harsh. She was, but she saw something in me. And that was how my gymnastics career really started. I would cry very often in the gym, but she was able to push me in a way that I could feel that there was something more. Like there was love, there was support there. And I will never forget Su Lin, because if it wasn't for her, I know that I wouldn't have been where I am today. And I'm really grateful for her. I don't even, Su Lin. Anyways, so my story. I was around 7 or 8 years old, and I was at the level of doing, for those who know gymnastics, I was able to connect 2 back handsprings in a row on a beam. I was working on 3 back handsprings. I could do presses in a row. I could hold planche, casting handstands, working on bar exchanges, giant flyweight. Like I was, for a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, it was pretty unheard of and pretty amazing. And I don't know what happened. Su Lin had to immediately leave the country. I don't know if she got deported. I don't know the whole story. They don't talk to kids. But there was this sadness. There was something there that at that age, like gymnastics wasn't quite that bad. Like it's still fun. You have tons of teammates, because when you start off young, you got a big group, you got friends. As you start going up in levels, they all start falling out one by one. But I had friends, so it wasn't quite that bad. But Su Lin also, there was something extra that when she was there, she was able to pull something out of me that was very special. And when she had to abruptly leave, she actually wrote my mother and I a letter. She wrote us a letter from China. She mailed it to us, and she said, specifically, she gave a date. She said, if by this date, 1990, whatever, if Brittany is not doing these skills, and she listed specific skills, back handspring back layout, front semi on the beam, flipping on her vault, all these things on, if she had a specific list that she said by if this specific date, and she wrote it out, every single thing, if I wasn't doing these skills, I had to leave that gym. So my mom, being the gym mom that she is, she had that letter with her all the time, everywhere we went. And when that date came, my mom opened up that letter and she saw what I was doing in the gym, and I didn't have any of those things. My mother was like, it's time to go. Su Lin said, we got to go to the next gym. And I just want to talk about that gap between when Su Lin left and just talk a little bit deeper on how my feelings for the sport went even lower and lower. And I want to just talk about the mental side of gymnastics that not a lot of people talk about. Sulin was able to push me, but also show me love. And love is one of my languages. So when she left, there was no coach, that fully understood who I was. And I remember I ended up getting my 3 back handsprings on beam, but that's partially because my mom bribed me. My mom bought me the cutest pair of shoes. Like, they were like little heels, and like I was this little 7-8-year-old, and like fashion was really important. So like they were the coolest shoes. And my mother said, like, if you do your 3 back handsprings on the high beam and you get it, you get to wear these shoes. So my shoes were called the 3 back handsprings. And I really wanted those freaking shoes. Like, it didn't matter how, I needed to get those shoes. So I got the skill, I got my shoes, I got to wear them around. But then once I got my shoes, it was like, well, what now? Like, am I gonna have to be bribed every time to get skills? So I was on my way to a competition, and I started panicking about 3 back handsprings. I didn't want to do that at the competition, and because I didn't have confidence, I didn't have a voice, my way of expressing myself was through tears. So I started crying. It was a competition that was far away, and I just started crying, and I started to make up this pain in my head. Like, every time that I would breathe in, I would get this sharp pain under here, and then I would cry, and then obviously tears. Brittany, what's wrong? What's going on? I don't know, it hurts. And I would just start crying, and I would just start breathing, and it was hurting, and I was crying, and it was just getting worse, and it was just getting worse. And then we went to the competition, and because I still had to compete, I did the 3 back handsprings on the beam. I did what I needed to do, but in the end, I was like, I don't like this. So this pain would just get worse, and would get worse, and it would get worse, and it would get worse. And I was like, okay, great. This is giving me more attention. Attention is good, because now that I have attention, maybe I could do less of gymnastics. Now, the pain was actually getting worse. See, I was young, and I didn't know my power. I didn't know my spirituality. And the more that I would encourage this pain, the more serious it got on the other side. I started to get MRIs, CAT scans, all these different tests. And next thing you know, I have cancer. Yeah, lymphoma. Driven straight to Sick Kids Hospital, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's one of the best, biggest, brightest hospitals specific for children. They fly in doctors from all around the world for special cases like mine, because how in the world this gymnast just out of nowhere gets lymphoma cancer? So immediate surgery, all these needles going into my hands, all these tests and all these things probing everywhere. They go inside, they cut me out immediately, and they look at the samples, and then they realize, it's not cancer, it's actually just scar tissue. So perfect. It's beautiful that it's not cancer, because that's terrifying. So they're like, but we want to keep her in the hospital. We want to keep doing tests because we can't figure out what this is. So now I start becoming this this test product. Like, how can we solve this? Like, what's going on here? How can this high level athlete just get cancer out of nowhere? So they start doing more tests on me, going into my back and doing all these different tests, and tubes down my throat, tubes in my nose, in bed, just like, Brittany's just sitting here, and I'm sitting in this sickly bed, and I'm like, what is worse? Gymnastics or being a sickly child? And I thought real hard about this, and I was like, I really don't like gymnastics, but I can't live this lifestyle. I can't. I think I'm gonna suck it up. I think from here on in, I've manifested cancer in myself, and I can say that because that's what I feel. That's what my knowing is. And when I made the decision that gymnastics is, I'd much rather just endure gymnastics than have to pretend a sickness that actually manifested into something. I made that decision on that bed when all these tests and tubes were all in me. And there was a point where my father was like, enough, absolutely enough. You keep testing, you keep probing, you keep poking, you keep this, you keep that, and you're not finding anything. So we're done. We're absolutely done. You said there's nothing there. Stop probing. I'm taking you out of this hospital. And the doctors, of course, we don't recommend. My dad took me out of that hospital, and I went home. You know, we did a lot of juicing, a lot of, you know, just making sure what I was eating was a lot healthier. And I go home. I have these three big scars. I have stuff all over my back. And so I'm hoping that when I go back to gymnastics, there's at least a little bit of leeway in between. And I remember maybe I got less than a week off between all the major surgeries, and my mom brought me right back to the gym and spoke to the owner and just said, hey, you know, obviously not going into many details. Black people don't talk about their details. She's had a minor surgery, and we probably need to take it a little bit easy with her, not knowing that I had these 3 big ass scars, like picking everywhere. But, you know, I was not going to allow sickness or anything like that to manifest on a deeper level, because without me trying as hard as I did, it went to like the extreme. And I'm gonna stop part 1 there because I don't want these videos to be too long, but that is one tiny little snippet. I've got years to share with you guys, but the power of the mind, not having a voice to speak, manifesting something because my heart wasn't there, and manifesting something so big that it led to hospital, surgeries, drugs, in a bed with tubes in my mouth. And I didn't even know I was that spiritual. I didn't even know how much power Brittany had. But I had it, and I have it. And it's something that I'm filling in with right now, and I'm coming to one with right now, with the power that we each individually have. So part 1 on Brittany's journey, Brittany's life in gymnastics.